The Six of Wands in Joe Bandel's Oak Tarot of Love and Romance is a jarring reversal of traditional tarot expectations, transforming what is usually a card of public victory into a claustrophobic study of thrilling exploitation and dark fascination. In most decks, you'll see a figure on horseback being cheered by a crowd, but Bandel focuses on the visceral, shadowy exchange between two people, where the victory is actually a conquest of personal space. It's a card that describes that specific, intoxicating moment, when someone's attention becomes so intense it starts to feel like an invasion, yet the person receiving it is too caught up in the thrill to pull away.
It's a fascinating pivot because it strips away the external audience. In Bandel's imagery, we have these 6 glowing wands forming a circle of energy around a man who's leaning in way too close. His face is described as intense and hungry. Then you have the woman laughing at a party, looking playful, but there are these dark energy threads connecting them. The traditional success of the Six of Wands is replaced here by the success of a predator or an obsessed lover who has successfully breached a boundary. It really forces us to look at the shadow side of attraction, where the high of being chosen or admired masks the reality that someone is crossing a line.
That hunger in the man's face feels central to the thrilling exploitation Bandel mentions. It's not just a crush, it's an appetite. When we look at the male experience associated with this card, it's characterized by a drive to know everything, to possess every detail of the other person, even if it means steamrolling over their privacy. It's the thrill of the chase reaching a fever pitch, where the chase itself becomes more important than the person being chased.
And the female experience is the mirror to that, where the excitement of being the center of that hunger is so validating it creates a blind spot. Bandel's description of the woman laughing brightly while sensing something is becoming unhealthy is a perfect psychological profile of early-stage love bombing or high-intensity pursuit. There's a biological rush involved. Researchers like Helen Fisher have shown that early-stage intense romantic love activates the same dopamine-rich regions of the brain as cocaine addiction. That thrilling part of the exploitation is literal. The brain is being flooded with reward chemicals that make the dark energy threads look like golden ones, at least for a while.
The presence of the oak tree in the background of this card is such a sharp contrast to that chaotic, hungry energy. In Bandel's system, the oak represents grounded reality and firm boundaries. It's standing there watchful while this theatrical display of golds and reds plays out. It's like the card is asking, where is the substance? Where are the roots? If you remove the intensity of the gaze and the thrill of the invasion, what is actually left between these two people?
That's the brutally honest mirror Bandel intended for this deck. He spent years translating dark German horror and fantasy literature before creating this, and you can see that influence in how he frames the wands. Traditionally, wands represent spiritual energy or fire, but here that fire is being used to illuminate deep shadows. When he speaks of dark fascination, he's tapping into what Jungian psychologists call the shadow projection. We are often most intensely attracted to people who embody the parts of ourselves we've disowned or repressed. The man in the card might be projecting his own need for power onto the pursuit, while the woman might be projecting her need for worthiness onto his obsession.
But isn't there an argument that this intensity is just what passion looks like? People often say they want a partner who is obsessed with them. Our culture, especially in dark romance literature, often frames this kind of boundary crossing as the ultimate proof of love. If he's not leaning in too close, does he even want her? Bandel seems to be challenging that cultural script by labeling it as exploitation.
He absolutely is. This card is a warning about the difference between being adored and being consumed. Adoration in a healthy sense, as noted by researchers like Arthur Brooks, can be a protective factor in a relationship. It builds security. But exploitation happens when that adoration is used as a tool for control. In the card, the man is leaning in with a hungry face. Hunger is about satisfying a self-interest, not about the well-being of the person being looked at. The Six of Wands in this deck invites us to ask, am I enjoying the attention or am I enjoying the person? If the attention stopped, would I still want the man? If the pursuit ended, would he still care about the woman?
The colors in the card, dramatic reds and theatrical golds, really highlight that sense of a performance. It's a party scene, Everything is public, which mirrors the traditional Six of Wands theme of public recognition. But here, the public part is just a backdrop for a very private violation. It reminds me of how people often perform perfect relationships on social media, emphasizing the grand gestures and the intensity, while the actual day-to-day boundaries are being eroded behind the scenes.
And that's where the dark energy threads come in. They are thin, almost invisible connections that represent the unhealthy attachments forming under the guise of romance. In psychology, we might call these trauma bonds or intermittent reinforcement cycles. The woman's bright laugh is a mask, maybe even to herself. She's sensing the unhealthy part, but the theatrical gold of the moment is too bright to look away from. Bandel's deck is really about the loving embrace of reality, and this card represents the moment that embrace becomes a cage.
It's interesting that there are only 6 wands. In a traditional deck, those wands are held by the crowd, supporting the victor. Here, they form a circle of energy around the man, almost like a spotlight or a fence. It's a self-contained loop of energy that doesn't leave room for anyone else. It's exclusionary. If you're inside that circle, it feels like the whole world, but the oak tree is outside the circle, reminding you that there's a much larger, more stable reality you're ignoring.
That circle also represents the lack of a third point in the relationship. In healthy dynamics, there's the self, the other, and the relationship as a separate entity rooted in shared values, the oak. In this Six of Wands, there's just the circuit of obsession. The man's hunger feeds the woman's need for attention, which in turn fuels his hunger. It's a closed loop. It's why Bandel says the card invites you to look honestly at what you are really seeking. Are you seeking a partner, or are you seeking the high of being the most important thing in someone's universe?
I want to go back to the male perspective Bandel mentions, the urge to get closer and know everything. This is often romanticized as wanting to know her soul, but it can easily slip into digital stalking, reading private messages, or demanding total transparency without earning trust. It's a form of intellectual and emotional trespassing. By including this, Bandel is pointing out that the victory of the Six of Wands can be a hollow win if it's achieved through the destruction of the other person's sovereignty.
And the female experience of sensing something is becoming unhealthy is that gut instinct we're often told to ignore for the sake of the spark. In traditional tarot, the Six of Wands is a yes card. It means move forward, you've won, but in the Oak Tarot, it's a pause card. It's asking you to check the threads. Are they threads of connection or threads of control? Are you laughing because you're happy or because you're performing the role of the chosen one in a very dark theater?
Bandel's background in translating authors like Hans-Heinz Ewers, who wrote about psychological horror and the macabre, really explains why he's so comfortable exploring these dark edges of love. He doesn't see love as just a soulmate fairy tale. He sees it as a soulmate cycle that includes integrating the shadow. The Six of Wands is that specific point in the cycle where the shadow is dressed up in gold and red. It looks like a win, it feels like a win, but the hunger in the imagery tells the real story.
It's essentially a card about the loss of the self in the heat of attraction. When the man leans in too close, he's losing his own center to his obsession. And when the woman focuses on the thrill of his attention, she's losing her boundaries. The oak tree is the only thing in the card that isn't moving, isn't hungry, and isn't performing. It's the standard of truth that both partners are currently failing to meet.
The technical breakdown of the card's composition is so intentional. The circle of energy created by the wands acts as a barrier to the rest of the world. Even at a party, these two are isolated by their intensity. This mirrors the psychological phenomenon, where a new, intense relationship can lead to social isolation as the couple becomes a closed system. The Six of Wands here isn't about being celebrated by the community, it's about using the community as a stage for a private drama that excludes the community's grounding influence.
And that drama is inherently unstable. Fire, the element of wands, needs fuel. If the fuel is thrilling exploitation, the fire will eventually burn out the person being exploited, or it will turn into the abandonment rage that psychologists see when an obsessed partner's needs are finally met with a boundary. Bandel isn't saying the attraction isn't real, he's saying the foundation is built on shadows. He's asking the reader to step out of the theatrical light and stand by the oak tree for a moment.
It really changes how you'd read this card for someone. If they're asking about a new romance and they pull this, you're not saying congratulations on your success. You're saying the attention you're getting is high octane, but look at where his eyes are. Look at how much space you have left to breathe. It's a card for people who are addicted to the chase phase of a relationship and don't know how to transition into the rooted phase.
Exactly. The Six of Wands in the Oak Tarot is the celebration of a boundary being broken. It's the high before the crash of the Five of Wands, which in Bandel's deck represents the spiritual crisis when that intensity becomes a cage. If you can recognize the hungry face and the dark threads during the Six of Wands phase, you might be able to find your way back to the oak tree before the energy becomes truly destructive.
It's a powerful reminder that in the realm of spiritual love, the suit of wands, the greatest victory isn't winning someone over. It's maintaining your own spiritual sovereignty, even while you're being admired. Bandel's work forces us to see that sometimes the person cheering for us is actually just hungry for us, and those are two very different things. The theatrical golds and reds are beautiful, but they aren't sunlight. They're stage lights.
And stage lights can be turned off. The oak tree, however, remains. It's a call for radical honesty about our own motivations, whether we're the one leaning in or the one laughing at the party. We have to decide if we want a relationship that is a performance or a relationship that is a refuge.
The transition from that theatrical intensity to a grounded connection is perhaps the most difficult part of any romance, but Bandel suggests it's the only way to move from the thrill to the embrace. This card serves as the vital warning that not all light is good light, and not all attention is love.
It really is a mirror for the modern age of romance, where we are constantly encouraged to seek that winning feeling of being chosen, often at the expense of our own safety and peace. If you found this analysis of the shadow side of attraction helpful, pass this episode along to someone who's navigating the complexities of a new or intense relationship.